and we will get excited. I'm going to switch it up a little bit for Tawnie today, and we're just going to talk about some things we have been experiencing this week. And here's Tawnie. Bring her up.
Hello, beautiful. Good. How are you?
You're wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Great seeing you.
No, oh my gosh.
So listen, I said before you even got on, I said I'm going to throw this at Tawnie today because we both been doing a whole bunch. So we are going to talk about all of these things that we've been doing, and at the same time, how to hone it in to still be in control of what's going on with our traumatic brain injury and how we are coping with everything, because we are both learning that we have to learn to slow down and take a breather. I would say I am not the best at scheduling things and actually putting it in my face. and Tawnie is looking around, so that's why I told y'all, this is my sister from another mother. We both have these issues that we do the same thing, and she'll text me and it's like, hey, we're supposed to, and I'm like, Tawnie, it's a whole nother thing that we're supposed to have been started that I thought about today. So it's so much going on, you guys. But also saying all that to say it's a beautiful thing. So I started off saying that because it reminds me of a conversation I had yesterday talking about all these things that in my head that I want to do for the stroke community, for the disabled, for things that I want to help, and the things that I still do that I don't talk about all the time. Like I could be on the phone talking to a caretaker for 2-3 hours and it's just giving them information, but I love doing it. And the young lady goes, child, you do 50 million things. Like, when do you get a breather? When do you do a break? But the thing is, I had to tell her, I actually have peace of mind when I'm doing it, because it's a breath of fresh air, because I was a stroke survivor. The things I went through, nobody really knew how or know what to expect. So now I am 5 years post. I can talk to other stroke survivors. I can talk to other caretakers about what to expect, what's to come, based off of my experience, based off people that I speak within the community. So I look at it as I'm talking to other survivors and other warriors. I'm gathering information. I'm talking to caretakers. I'm gathering information for them. So it's like I'm collecting a plethora of information, and it feels good to let it out, because these are things we need to know. Things that we need to know that we didn't know we needed to know when we were first days, weeks, and months into making it out of having our stroke. So it's a great thing, but at the same time, it takes time for me to sit back and say, hey, let me chart some things, let me pay attention, let me organize better, let me schedule things better. So at the end of the day, I don't fall and do what I did a couple weeks ago and do what you did just recently by overworking ourselves. And it's really what it turns out to be is we're really not giving ourselves the grace that we should be. And we say it all the time. We look great, we look well, we don't look like what we've been through, but we've been through a lot. So we have to learn how to give ourselves grace to say, hey, we may need to take a break, we may need to rest, or we may need to delegate what we're doing to somebody else or put it back at another time. So all of those things were just at the forefront of my head. So I said, I'm throwing this at Tawnie today. We had another topic, but we're going to talk about that. And I also got it from, take a breath, I was listening to Tawnie and Maddie's podcast where they were talking to Cody.
Yeah.
And it's a blessing how Cody was able to get back to do all the things that he loved to do, post. Like he tried to go back to Dylan, he tried to go back, so that didn't work. So even being able to pick up those things, he never once allowed his brain to say, hey, yes, I had a stroke, I had a traumatic brain injury, I can't do the things that I love to do. He says, I'm going to put myself out there, I'm going to do it. And then if it turns out that it's not the best, I'm not doing it to the best of my ability, okay, I'll try something else. And guess what? He's trying something else.
You don't know until you've tried it. And that's the attitude I still take. Like, I remember the first time someone showed me a bike after my stroke. They're like, can you ride a bike? And I go, I don't know. Let's find out. Like, let's do it. So I know, because I look physically fine. Like, everybody gotta go, my balance is still a hot mess. It's still like, I literally can be standing there with you and I will just tip over sometimes. Like, people are like, are you drunk? And I'm like, no, that's just the stroke. Woo. Like, I joke. I go, I'm just like a drunk person, it seems like. But well, you were talking about why we love to give back and talk. And I know everybody's like, like my husband, he's like, you wake up at like 8 in the morning and you're talking to people. And then it's until you go to bed, like I'm at least on my phone doing something. And it's nice to give back because like it helps get me out of my depression, anxiety, getting the perspective. Also to be able, like it fills my heart because I know how alone I felt. Like all the doctors just kept telling you, you're so different. You're so young. I don't know. We've never had anybody like you. And then you go to Google and you're looking up things and it's just horrific. Don't do it. So that's why, like Tracey said, giving back to the community. That's why if you meet a lot of warriors, we like to stay connected because it helps me on my healing journey. Like Tracey, as much as she does, it's a good reminder because when I catch myself wanting to go, girl, you need to slow down. I'm like, what do you think everybody keeps telling you? So we are a good balance. And that is something, you know, I think I realized because we lost so much independence that like that's why I have a hard time still asking for help or support. Like, but this morning I'm getting better because I did so much yesterday and I did put it in my calendar, but I guess I didn't look at it when I told you. So me and Tracey were going to meet a little bit before this so we could talk about some things. She sends me that text. I'm like, I'm in a Zoom for a UK support group. Oh my gosh, I've double booked. So even taking the steps to put it in my calendar, which I'm going to tell you, I know I don't know who else says this, but I go, man, I wish, and I sometimes go, dang it, and I will blame my brain. And then my mom or my husband has to go, sweetheart, people do that. Everybody does that. So, like Trace said, giving yourself the grace to know that we're trying to get better and we are doing things, but I really, really, I do have to slow down. And it has been my caretakers who like, my husband, he's like, are you okay? Because I was still laying in bed. And I was like, I just did a lot tomorrow. And so I did. I asked him, can you bring me coffee in bed? Before, I would have been like, as someone who was on bed rest, I would have been like, don't be lazy. Go get yourself a cup of coffee and then crawl back into bed. But I was like, no, you can ask your husband to come bring you some freaking coffee. Like a normal chick could ask that too. Why are you trying to be like, no, you're lazy? So,
It's how our brain operates. Like, hey, we can do this. We've been doing this on our own. Hello, we want to get better, so we're gonna always keep pushing ourselves. And I have to bring up this comment because I totally forgot. So Mitch just said you literally was just doing an ATV on rough terrain in the desert and just do whatever. And honestly, I didn't think about it when we were out of town, they said, hey, we're gonna ride ATV. I'm like, oh hell yeah, let's go. Yeah. And then one day I was like, yo, I've been running the ATV since post-stroke. I was like, I had to call him like, do you think I could do this? He said, I already checked it for you. Everything's on the right side. Like, but in my mind, like no thought was like, hey, can I do it? I was like, yeah, we going to ride ATVs. And then I called him like, is everything on the right? If everything's on the left, like, how does that you work? But he looked out for me. He was like, I already called ahead of time. It was like, your shift is on the right. Everything's on the right. But at the same time, so I would say I started off slow because I started getting in my head like, what if my hand slips? Because again, everybody knows I don't have full feeling on my left. So I'm going, then I see, I'm like, okay, I ain't fall. I start revving up. So listen, in my head, I'm feeling like, hey, I'm a pro now, so I'm gonna take it to the next level. It's those things like that gives me the joy. And like again, Cody was saying, he put himself out there, started doing it. If it didn't work, or say for instance, it takes me back to like we were ATVing. It reminds you of the people around you that will take care of you and will look out for you. So we were out there. He said, yo, I got you. And even though they could have took off, he kept checking on me like, you good? You good? And I'm like, go ahead. But he still was, you got to make sure you're around the right people. He was still like, listen, you know what you're doing. You feel comfortable. And once I said I'm comfortable, he's like, oh, well, let's go. So guess what? I took it up a notch and we went ahead and rode. So it's just those things that are beautiful when you think about all the things we've been through. Sometimes it's, and I say sometimes, but actually me, I take it a lot of times. I don't really put myself back to say, hey, this may not work. I jump into it first and say, hey, I'll do it. And then a thought might come after like, dang, Can I actually do that? Or my body will start reacting to something and say, hey, dang, you probably should have thought about it because you likely did too much.
Yeah.
So all of these things that we just don't really take into consideration. But at the end of the day, it's giving ourselves grace and giving ourselves praise. Hey, thank God. I got on the ATV that I hadn't got on post-stroke. I didn't think about it. I jumped on it. Hello, guys. It takes you to two hands. Hello, we also know Blue over here don't have no feeling. So I was able to control all of that without being in my head to say, hey, I can't do it. And if it was a situation that I couldn't, I would have had to be okay with giving myself grace to say, Tracey, you can't ride the ATV once you got in there. You can't because maybe my hand didn't want to grip or whatever the case may be. And honestly, I would say, I wish I would have had figured out a way to be able to show y'all because now I'm thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
Nobody paid attention, but I kept looking down at my foot because, again, the feeling in my foot, I kept looking like, some of the times, Tawnie, I'm going to tell you, I was riding ATV. The whole left foot was just to the side. It wasn't quite up. It wasn't quite on there, but at the same time, I was having fun. I was paying attention, like, hey, okay, maybe you need to slow down when you're going through those rough terrains or hitting the roads because your foot may slip off. So it was just things like that. Again, and when I'm looking at everything we're talking about, you guys, looking at giving ourselves grace, but also giving ourselves a little push to say, even though we may not have done things and we may not do it perfect, that doesn't mean we can't live. We can go out and live. We can find ways to live. And if you're uncomfortable doing it by yourself, make sure you're around people that care for you, that love you, that say, hey, I know you want to have fun. I'm going to watch you. I'm going to make sure I got your back in spite of. So it's because I could have definitely been in my head and say, hey, I can't do this. Yeah. My whole left side does what it wants to when it wants to, y'all. But nobody ever thought about it. They were like, yo, let's roll. Yeah. I jumped on. I didn't tell the people we were getting a bike from that I had an issue. Everybody got on. They showed me how to put it on, and we kept rolling. So all of those things we got to take into consideration, giving ourselves grace, but also giving ourselves that extra push. It may not be perfect, y'all, but we can go out and do these things. I'm telling you, if y'all didn't hear the message on their podcast where Cody said, listen, Cody used to be a dealer, and he had a stroke, and he was like, listen, I still want to go ahead and deal. He got himself back into it. It wasn't, I would say he may have said it wasn't as perfect as it was what we would have said prior to his stroke, but it's something he wanted to accomplish, and he put himself back out there to go and make sure he accomplished it. And that's a great feeling that you have for yourself to say, hey, I did it. And that right there is grace within yourself to say, hey, I tried. Whether it was not the best or whether it's not something you're continuing to do, but you tried, you pushed yourself to the next level.
I mean, I have to thank the fact it was horrible reasoning that I had to go back to work before I was ready, back to being a special education teacher. I mean, they were like, you can't even teach with, I was a one-on-one aide. I worked with one specific kiddo, and they were like, he is too aggressive. You can't work with him anymore. So I got pulled out of my classroom. I got put into a brand new classroom just a couple months after it. And it was like a blessing in disguise because I was back with the kindergarten to first grade. So reading all of those things that they're learning and I'm teaching them. And sometimes like I would cry because I was like, I stumbled over the words. Like, what if I'm teaching these kids horrible things? And the other teacher's like, you're like such a better teacher because you're so much more empathetic and you understand. I'm like, because I went through a neurological thing. I understand so much more the light sensitivity, the sound sensitivity. Like I watched a million videos to try to understand how those kiddos felt. Squeak. But I can tell you, after leaving the hospital, when we went to get me shoes, because I used to walk like a duck because my balance was so bad that it was like, so I got like different shoes because PT was like, maybe it'll help, like, you know, you walk right. And I was so excited to go to the store with my mom. The buzzing of the lights, the cash register when we went to check out was so shattering, so much like in you. It was so crazy to be that sound sensitive. I told her, I 100% get why the kids run. I go, because right now all I wanted to do was scream and run out of that store. So it's cool because of the fact that I have well, not super unique because Tracey does the same thing. I say yes to things.
Unique. Don't listen, as I said, don't downgrade what you have. You have a unique sense, baby. You do. You do.
Well, but just that I say yes to things and I'm like, I'll figure it out. And like,
Yeah.
right after the brain surgery, not right after the second one, I was like, sure, I'll try to mow the lawn. And I did it for a little bit, hurt my brain, hurt my head real bad, had to tell my family I can't do that. And so I'm not saying that's always the best way, but like we've said, is I have found it's helped me rebuild my confidence with myself because in the beginning, I did start to get scared. I started going, what if I can't do that? What if, because everybody was telling me, I don't think she can't walk both of her dogs. You will never walk both your dogs. So you know how much I love. That's why I go live, walking both my dogs and my freaking cat in a backpack. And I'm like, oh, those doctors told me I'd never do it. Guess who's doing it? So, all saying that just to say having people around you though that, like you said, continue to check on you and like, hey, you good? You okay? Means the world. In that community. And maybe you're like, I don't physically have someone here, but reaching out and having other survivors like Tracey just did. She caught me trying to downplay myself and she's like, like you need that. We need that because the world does that enough. And so having other survivors has been so helpful for that perspective.
Yeah. It's a beautiful thing all the way around, but that's going to take me to want to challenge survivors. And even if we just take this part out to put it out there to say, hey, the new challenge, you guys, is to try something that you have not tried post-stroke and don't think about it. And that's what it is. Don't think about it. Just make it happen. I literally was like, oh, yeah, NCD's fine. The morning of, it was actually almost didn't go because they were like, hey, we're sold out. I was like, no, I'm going. Called. They were like, hey, we can get you in. But then I called like, never thought of it. So I went through all that, and I'm not gonna repeat it again. Went through all that, like, is it left side, right side? Can I even do it? And even really thinking about it, his confidence in it itself was like, yo, I already took it. Like, you'll be fine. So I never, and I'm replaying it back now, but I don't even know if he's still on here, but I appreciate that. His confidence was like, you'll be fine. You got this. Already checked to make sure everything's on the right side. You good. And he wasn't in my face as, hey, you think you can do it? It was like, yo, let's roll.
Yeah.
And then he kept coming back like, you good? You good? Oh, what's up? You sure you good? I'm like, yeah. And that's what it was like, the extra push, like, well, you said you good. That's why you back there laughing. Like, so then we turned it. And honestly, I was one challenging him. Like, I'll see he, I'm like, hey, y'all want to go down the hill? And some of the people was with us like, you want to? And he'd be like, you want to do it? Well, let's roll. So it was like, and I think, and now I'm looking at it, he was like, yo, is she good enough to do it? Or she want to challenge herself? Let's do it. And now he started pushing me. He was waiting to see my reaction. So I truly appreciate all of that. And I'm really just now sitting back thinking about it. It was a beautiful thing because I was just like, yeah, let's do it. But Tracey, you did nothing to guide yourself and have to shift. Post-stroke, I jumped on a bike and was able to do it, y'all. So I appreciate that, Mitch. I truly appreciate that. Y'all got to be around great people that's going to push you, that's going to challenge you, and at the same time, they're going to walk you through, making sure you're okay. So challenging our survivors and our warriors. Let's try to find something over the next week or next 2 weeks, something in April. This is April, something in April to do that you have not done post-stroke. And I want you to be safe with it, but at the same time, I kind of want you to not think about it, because if I was to sit down and maybe said it out loud to everybody, like, hey, I want to ride ATVs, they would have probably looked at me like, who the hell? You ain't getting on an ATV. But I was just with a group and they said they were doing it. I was like, oh, yeah, we're all doing it. So it's something, we got to find something to challenge us in a great way that's going to give us that boost of that confidence to say, hey, we can do it. It may not be pretty and it may not be the best. It may not be how you would expect it to be, but take your time and appreciate, hey, again, I tell you all the time, blue over here, this hand does what it wants to. It works when it wants to. I have a feeling when it wants to. But if I sat back and parked on that all the time, I would not be able to do half the things that I could. I would not be able to push myself. I would not be. So give yourself grace, but at the same time, we can give ourselves a little more push, because every day now, as a survivor, as a warrior, is progression. So we're going to learn things every single day that we did not do before, or things that we forgot that we hadn't recognized prior to suffering from the stroke. So it's the small things, it's the beautiful things that you may sit back, and you may not even notice it right away. You may sit back later, as I'm doing a week later, like, I did that, and it was beautiful. So it's just really, guys, I want us to challenge ourselves this week.
Take the
this month of
challenge.
April, this week, this month of April, you guys, challenge yourself. Do something that you have not done post-stroke since you've suffered your stroke, and something that will bring some joy to you. And I really want to, as we have so much negativity in the world and so many days of us trying to prove ourselves to people and prove ourselves that we're okay. Listen, forget that right now. I want this month of April for you to take care of yourself. I want it to be a self-care. Like, hey, push ourselves to do something that's going to make us smile. We're gonna call this month self-care April for the Warriors. That's what I want us to do. We're gonna work on self-care, which means, Tawnie, I know I've been talking a lot, but Tawnie, that means we have to reshift the schedule because we were supposed to do something and we have not done it.
Oh yeah, know that.
Know that. We weren't going to say it on here, guys, but Tawnie and I were supposed to start working out twice a week, and we have not done it. So yes, I'm throwing it out there. I'm saying it on live. So therefore,
it needs to happen.
Y'all see it on here, you're gonna be like, "Hey, did y'all start?" Because yes, that's how the brains do. We said it twice, have not done it, forgot about the schedule, but we're putting it out there because it's self-care April. We got to do things to push us. Tawnie looks great, feels great, but
I want to build up the stamina.
Want to take herself to the next level, so we're gonna make that happen.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say, Tawnie?
No, I just love it. I can't wait. We'll get that stamina and strength up so you guys can come along.
Yes. I appreciate you guys for logging in today. Before we get out of here, y'all got any questions or comments? I doubt because I don't see anybody write anything. I'm talking fast because I'm answering for y'all. But I truly appreciate the love that you've been giving everybody in the community. I appreciate everybody that's been supporting me, supporting all of our survivors and warriors in ways that we may not even see or may not even notice, even just with supporting us, but being present on our live and things like that. So truly appreciate y'all. And this is Self-Care April, y'all. Self-Care April. So I want you to challenge yourself. Do something that you have not done since you have suffered this traumatic brain injury, this traumatic disease.
Stress awareness month. So, I mean, like, that's why I'm doing more self-care on my skincare. I'm doing coloring. So physical things are great, but I know a lot of survivors, maybe you are not there. So there's a lot of things you can do. Coloring, there's so many different stuff. So reach out in the community. Seriously. We get to grow together.
We love you guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Boop. Okay. All right. And okay. Oh shit, did I not end?